Hi there. First off, this is not for attention or anything similar to that. I will tell you more about what chronic hives are. I will tell you about my story, about how it went away, and my tips on living with it. Anyone who leaves rude or inappropriate comments should know your comments are going to be deleted. I'm doing this just for people like me. When I had chronic hives, I desperately needed someone to support me. Someone who knew what I was going through, because let's be honest, anybody who hasn't gone through that experience cannot imagine a single bit what it feels like to live with it. I found stories about people who had them for 10 plus years, 20 years, and also the doctors told me, well, it's like most of the people get it for 5 to 10 years. And I'm like, great, 5 to 10 years living like this? And anyone who has it knows what I'm talking about. I would have been happy about to have more people talk about it openly, talk about all the things that come with it, and that there's hope that it goes away. For anybody who doesn't know what chronic hives are, I will explain this to you right now. Urticaria is the medical name for chronic hives. About 20% of all the people get hives. Most of them only out of allergic reactions, which will go away in like 24 hours. If it's really heavy, it can go up to 6 weeks, but it goes away again. They're itchy red colored welts that are covered over the whole body, and you can get them anywhere. For a small amount of people like me, after those 6 weeks, they're still there. And with that starts a journey for some of us, which is kind of hard. The single welts only stay up to 24 hours. But with the chronic disease, it will just pop up on a different body part, different size. They basically wander around your body. What I had specifically is a chronic idiopathic urticaria, which means that we don't know why I got them. Chronic, obviously, it stayed and they kept coming back. Some of the people that have chronic hives, they have small durations of time where they don't have any. And then with a trigger, they come back. But for me, I had them 24/7 for a bit more than 2 years. Some common triggers, especially also for people with an allergic reaction, it is alcoholic drinks, tight clothes, ibuprofen and aspirin, and other anti-inflammatory drugs, exercise, or cold, or the heat. Then, is it contagious? No, it isn't. And if it's chronic, it might stay for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, and there's no known cure for it. So my experience. For me, it started when I was at a festival. It was hot, the sun was burning. I started to get like red, tiny needle-sized welts around my thighs, which were itchy. And I thought it was just some allergic reaction. Those festivals, they're dirty, the sun, too much sun, some kind of food I shouldn't have eaten, a bug, a plant, who knows what. So I didn't think much of it. My boyfriend at that time was more concerned than I was about that. And then I directly went to the States to visit family. When I got there is when it really started to burst. I was covered from head to toe with hives. My feet and my hands swell up, so I could barely walk, I could barely use my hands. Everything was itching. Obviously, I panicked, I didn't know what it was. My godmother took me to an emergency hospital. One thing that was positive, the doctor wasn't like, oh my god, you're gonna die. He was like, okay, well, those are hives. And he gave me a lot of cortisone, which didn't make it go away, but at least the swelling of my feet and my hands went away, which was nice because, believe me, it hurts. So the only thing I knew that helped at first was taking ice cold showers, but not too cold. There was a point of being too cold where they got worse, so it was like finding the right coldness for them to feel better. With the huge amount of cortisone that the emergency doctor gave me, I was able to enjoy my vacation a bit more, but still the hives were there. Back home in Switzerland, we went to a doctor right away and they were like, oh, we're gonna give you more cortisone and antihistamines for all the itching and the redness. It should go away in like 3 to 6 weeks. So after those 6 weeks, it was still there and it got worse. It was a full-on nightmare. I could not sleep, I could not do normal activities, and being in a relationship with chronic hives is, I'm talking about myself, for me was not possible. So that went bad really quickly because you don't want anyone to touch you. You don't want anything to touch you. If it's clothes or another person, it's all horrible. It feels horrible. I don't know how many times a day I bursted out in tears from all the pain and itchiness I had, all the things I couldn't do anymore. From, I'm guessing, the cortisone or the amount of antihistamines that I had to take. I started getting horrible migraines, which I still have until this day on. Sometime after those 6 weeks, from the migraine, I was like, I need to take pain medicine. I took pain medicine, went to bed. Next morning I wake up and I'm like, well, my head feels heavy. And I remember clearly getting up and walking to my mirror in my room. I looked at myself. I could barely look at myself. My face was swollen to the point where I didn't recognize myself. And now imagine standing in front of a mirror and not recognizing yourself. You know it's you, but you don't see yourself in the mirror. And for you to be able to understand what I mean, I will show you a picture of that morning. I was in shock, so I didn't know what to do. I walked out of my room and my mom was in the kitchen and I looked at her and I only said, "Mom," and you should have seen her eyes. She was terrified. And when you're in a situation like that, I was 17, you don't know what's going on with your body. You wake up with a swollen face. I couldn't even open my eyes properly. And your mom doesn't know what to say or to do because she's in shock too. Well, I'll tell you, it's not fun. So right away we went to a skin doctor. The only thing that he could say was to take even more cortisone for the next couple days to get the swelling down. And for those days I didn't go to school. And believe me, the amount of days I had to stay at home because it was so bad is not fun. I cried on the days that it was too bad to get out of the house. I cried and prayed to be able to go to school or to work because it's not like I could do anything at home. I was a prisoner to my own home and a prisoner to my body because my body didn't feel like my body anymore. If everything itches and hurts, is swollen and also looks bad, that's the smallest thing about chronic hives. Is it looks horrible, but that's not all. There's so much more to it, and you don't feel like home in your own body and you can't do anything about it. I then was admitted to the hospital to get tests done because some people have a disease that causes hives or something doesn't function right and you can get hives. So I was in the hospital for 3 days. They didn't find anything. They sent me back home. My life was still the same. So my skin doctor sent me to it's called University Hospital in Zurich, and they ran more skin tests, didn't find a thing. I was perfectly healthy, apparently. Then they were like, oh, there's this study with some weird medicine that I'm sorry, I don't remember, which half of the contestants would get a placebo and the other half the real thing and then see if it does anything. And so I'm like, well, yes, sure, if it helps, who knows. So I took place in it for, I think, like 4 weeks. And then after that, they would tell you if you got the placebo or the real thing. And I went back after those 4 weeks, still taking cortisone and antihistamines because without that, it would not work. I would have jumped in front of the train, and this is not being funny. That's not humor, that's being total serious. I went back there and they're like, oh, you got the real thing. Did it help? Zero. Nothing changed. After every bigger thing that we did, the hospital, the tests, the study, the disappointment was huge. My life kept falling apart again after having hope for it to go away, maybe. My parents also had a bad time because they saw me and they saw the pain I had. I remember my parents, both of them, saying, I wish I could have it instead of you because that's not how you want to live life and you're so young. you shouldn't go through this. Just hearing that meant a lot to me, but the reality was they couldn't do anything, just be there. In those 2 years, you would barely see me smile, and it could go away after 20 years. There's an end to it. It's a really, really horrible thing to have because your life quality is equal 0. Then after a while, again, at the hospital, they told me, hey, there's a asthma medication that people have used on chronic urticaria patients, which has helped. And after all the other tries, my hope level wasn't as high as you can imagine, but I was like, hey, yeah, let's try it. I'll do anything to make this go away. So they started giving me, I think it's 150 milligrams on both sides of my arms. I got shots here and here once a week. And then they were like, but it's not allowed to use on urticaria patients yet. That means the health insurance won't pay for it. So we had to have one of the doctors write a huge letter about it and that he really thinks it will work and send it in, and it took way too long for them to accept it, but finally after like 6 weeks they accepted it. And I can tell you what the medicine was called. It was called omalizumab, and the health insurance would only pay for 6 months because it's very expensive. I think it's 1,500 francs per 150 milligrams. I mean, half a year, 2 of those a week. It's not cheap. And if they after those 6 months it would have helped, they said, hey, we're gonna still pay for it, but it needs to help. So I started that. It didn't do a thing. I still took cortisone, which everyone who knows cortisone, it's horrible for your body. I lost half of my hair. I had the migraines from the cortisone. After that half year, going to the hospital once a week to get those shots, missing school, missing work even more. They're like, hey, we need to tell them if it works or not. Did it help? And then it didn't to that point, but somehow my gut told me to lie about it, so I lied to everyone. I'm like, oh yeah, it's still here, but it has helped in like the itching, and I would be really happy if we could continue. And so everyone was like, okay. They wrote another letter, and then the health insurance said, okay, we're gonna pay for it for another half year. Luckily, after like 3 more months of getting those shots, it actually started to go away slowly. I still had some, but not as much. I could go to work and to school more often, more regularly. By the time of February 2 years ago, it was gone. And up to that point, I took a certain amount of cortisone, so I was full of medication for 2 years. I had ended my relationship with my ex-boyfriend, not only because of that, but because we had a rough time, and then through me not being able or not wanting him to touch me at all, there was no chance. Now, after all of this, I appreciate every single day a lot more where I can do stuff, and I now also have extreme need to be doing stuff that's productive instead of just watching TV, because I wasn't able to do stuff for 2 years and now I can. And also, which is not as important at all, but I always wanted to get tattoos, and I wanted to get one when I was 18, and which obviously didn't work with the chronic hives. Now I have a couple of tattoos. I got piercings after that. I could do sports again. I can have relationships again. I can live my life the way it was before, but with a stronger and more positive mindset than I had before. So all in all, I know I would have never said that while having chronic hives, but all in all, after this, I'm actually really happy that I went through it, because it made me to the person that I am now. After it stopped, I could also take pain medication again, which is good because, like I said, I still get migraines from that, and I can take pain medication and it's all good. So the doctors, they didn't know why it started. After those 2 years, they still didn't. They said it might be psychologically, which I'm not sure if I agree. I know I was in a bad state at that point, but I don't think that would have been enough to like get your body to react like that, your body to panic. I don't know. It could have been. Who knows? Now if I ever get like small red blotches of welts or something, I get heart attacks, panic attacks, because I think, oh my god, I'm gonna get it again. But actually the chance of getting it again is the same as for anybody else to get it. I'm quite happy about that. So things that helped most were sleep, cold showers, living extremely healthy, cooling skin shells which don't have any perfume in it, also light clothing and no sun, next to all of the cortisone and antihistamines and the omalizumab. I don't know if I'm saying that correctly, but it's written like that, so. For anybody who knows someone who has it and doesn't know what it feels like, do not compare it with someone like, oh, there's other people who are in wheelchairs, or there's people who have cancer. You cannot compare this with each other. You cannot compare it, because for someone who has it, life couldn't be worse. If I would have had it much longer, seriously, I would have probably killed myself. And this might sound a bit drastic, but I had zero life quality. I could barely do anything with friends. I could not go to work. I could not go to school. I could not have a relationship with anyone. I could not do sports. Next to watching TV, basically I could not do anything. I could not go out in the sun, nothing. For people who actually live with that more than 2 years, I don't know how you do it, but you are strong as fuck. I admire your willpower to live. And some of the people thought, well, you just don't like the way it looks. Yes, it looked horrible. It looked awful. But let's be honest, that was the smallest thing about it. Your whole body itches and it burns and body parts swell up. Every move you make, every friction of your clothes on your body or even your hair or anything, it's horrible. I just wanted to say that there's hope. If you're going through this, don't give up. Also, all the tests and studies with the hospital or the doctors, don't lose your hope and keep trying, because one of those things might help. It doesn't mean that what helped me will help you, because it depends on what actually started your whole chronic hives situation, but I would try whatever you can get, because also taking cortisone for that long isn't healthy. This video was really important for me to do. Like I said in the beginning, if you have chronic hives or you know someone who has it and you have questions, or anything else about it, feel free to write me, leave a comment, or find me on social media, and don't be shy, just ask whatever. Other than that, thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, week, year. Bye.